Have you ever looked around and wondered, how can a country as rich as America have so many people living paycheck to paycheck? The skyscrapers, the Teslas, the iPhones, they all scream wealth. But behind the glass and glitter, something is deeply wrong. Because here's the truth. Most Americans are broke. And it's not because they're lazy. It's because the system was designed to make them that way. Let's pull back the curtain. The illusion of prosperity. On paper, America looks like the wealthiest nation on earth. A $28 trillion economy. More millionaires than any other country. A stock market that breaks records year after year. But beneath those numbers, the foundation is cracking. 63% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 57% can't afford a $1,000 emergency. Credit card debt just hit an all-time high. Over $1.3 trillion. And the average household savings rate is near zero. That's not prosperity. That's survival, dressed up as success. The Great American Illusion. For decades, Americans were sold a dream. Work hard, get a good job, buy a home, and you'll be fine. But somewhere along the way, the dream turned into a trap because the system stopped rewarding workers and started rewarding debt. Think about it. The economy grows when people borrow and spend, not when they save, not when they build wealth, but when they swipe, finance, and owe. That's not an accident. That's a business model. Banks profit when you borrow. Corporations profit when you consume. And the government profits when you keep paying taxes on both. It's a cycle that feeds itself and bleeds everyone else. The trap of normal. From the moment you're old enough to work, you're taught one thing: spend what you earn. You go to school, maybe college, take out loans, get a job, and immediately the system starts attaching strings. A car payment, a phone payment, a mortgage, student loans, credit cards. Every dollar you make already belongs to someone else. And the more you earn, the more they find new ways to take it. It's not personal, it's structural. Because broke isn't just a financial condition anymore, it's a lifestyle. It's the modern American default setting, the quiet psychological war. Here's the part nobody talks about. Being broke isn't just about money, it's about control. When you're buried in debt, you can't take risks. You can't quit your job. You can't fight back. Debt is the perfect form of control. Invisible, voluntary, and lifelong. It keeps you productive but never free. Busy but never ahead. Comfortable enough to stay quiet, but never confident enough to walk away. That's not freedom. That's economic slavery. Disguised as opportunity? The cost of looking rich. Everywhere you look, you're told to treat yourself, to enjoy life, to live a little. But what that really means is spend more. Because in America, image is currency. People buy things they don't need with money. They don't have to impress people who don't care. They finance clothes, cars, and vacations, and trade real wealth for digital validation. Social media turned lifestyle into competition, and competition turned consumption into addiction. You don't see the debt behind the filters. You just see the illusion and try to keep up. And that's how they keep you broke, by making you believe that spending is success. The education that never came. In school, you learn algebra, history, biology, everything except money. Nobody teaches you about taxes, credit scores, compound interest, or inflation. You graduate into adulthood without a financial playbook. And that's not a mistake. Because ignorance is profitable. When you don't understand how money works, you end up working for the people who do. Banks lend you money they create out of thin air and charge you interest forever. Corporations pay you wages that can't keep up with inflation and tell you to be grateful. The government prints money endlessly and taxes you on the illusion of prosperity. The game is rigged, and most people don't even know they're playing. The inflation illusion. Here's another hard truth. You're not broke because you spend too much. You're broke because your money is worth less every year. Inflation is the quiet thief in the night. In 1970, one income could support a family, buy a house, and pay for college. Today, two incomes barely cover rent and groceries. That's not progress. That's erosion. The dollar has lost over 85% of its purchasing power since 1970. And yet, wages have barely kept up. So what do people do? They borrow the difference. That's why every generation owes more than the one before. Not because they're reckless, but because the math stopped working. The mirage of homeownership. For decades, buying a house was the American dream. Today, it's a luxury few can afford. Home prices have soared beyond reason. Mortgage rates have doubled. And corporate investors now buy entire neighborhoods in cash, outbidding families. The average American can't compete. Homeownership, once the symbol of stability, has become another rigged game. And the cruelest part, the system tells you that if you can't afford it, it's your fault. But it's not. The game changed. The players didn't. The hidden tax, time. Money can be replaced. Time can't. But the average American spends their best years trading hours for dollars that lose value every year. They call it making a living. But really, it's surviving. And by the time most people realize they're stuck, the system has already drained decades of their energy and called it the American dream, the quiet desperation. You can see it in people's faces, in traffic, in offices, in grocery store lines. That mix of exhaustion and denial. They know something's wrong, but they can't explain it. They just keep going, hoping next year will be better. But it won't. Not unless they change how they see money. Because the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. It was never meant to make you rich. It was meant to keep you consuming. And the only way out is to stop playing their game. So now you know how the illusion works. But here's the darker truth. It's not just the system keeping people broke. It's the mindset the system creates. Because if the system is the cage, the conditioning is the lock, and almost no one ever finds the key. The credit trap. Credit was once sold as freedom, a tool to make life easier. But what it really became is a leash. In the 1980s, less than half of American households carried credit card debt. Today, over 70% do. The average American owes $7,300 in revolving credit, at interest rates now over 25%. Pay the minimum, and you'll be in debt until retirement. Miss a payment, and your score, your financial reputation, gets destroyed. That's not an accident. It's design, because debt isn't just how banks make money, it's how they control people. The more you owe, the more predictable you become. You'll work harder, stay longer, and never question the system that's draining you. Debt is the perfect prison. It keeps you chasing comfort while freedom slips away quietly. The tax illusion. Then there's taxes. The illusion of fairness. You work, you earn, you pay. But what you don't see is who doesn't. Corporations write off cars, flights, meals, and debt. Billionaires borrow against their assets to avoid selling and paying income tax. And you pay the highest rates on a paycheck that's already shrinking from inflation. They tell you that's fair, but fair for who? Because the system doesn't reward hard work. It rewards ownership. Those who trade time for money get taxed. Those who make money work for them get rich. That's not cheating. It's the rule book. And unless you learn those rules, you'll always be on the losing team. The education that never happened. If you ever wondered why schools don't teach kids about taxes, credit, or investing, now you know. They don't want financially independent citizens. They want financially obedient workers. From a young age, you're trained to memorize, not to question. To pass tests, not to create wealth. To follow instructions, not opportunities. You graduate knowing the Pythagorean theorem, but not how to calculate interest on a loan. And by the time you realize it, you're already trapped in the system. working, paying, and hoping it'll somehow fix itself. But it won't, because ignorance is profitable. When you don't understand money, you'll spend your life working for people who do. The illusion of freedom. They tell you America is the land of the free. But how free are you if every choice is tied to a payment plan? Freedom isn't having options you can't afford. It's being able to walk away, but most Americans can't. They can't quit jobs they hate. They can't move where they want. They can't take time off to think, breathe, or reset because their freedom was financed. And now it's owned by the lender. The cost of comfort. Comfort is the most dangerous form of poverty. It feels safe, but it kills progress. Comfort makes you think you're okay when you're actually stuck. You've got the car, the house, the gadgets, but also the payments, the stress, the fear of missing one paycheck. You call it stability, but it's really stagnation, disguised as success. Comfort is how the system wins. It doesn't need to oppress you. It just needs you comfortable enough not to fight back. The endless chase. Every decade, the system finds a new way to keep people running. In the 80s, it was the dream of homeownership. In the 90s, it was the stock boom. In the 2000s, real estate and cheap credit. In the 2010s, social media, success, and side hustles. Now, it's crypto, AI, and the illusion of overnight wealth. Different products. Same trap. They know people will chase whatever looks like freedom and spend themselves into another form of bondage trying to reach it. Because as long as you're chasing, you're not questioning. And as long as you're spending, they win. The few who escape, but not everyone stays trapped. There's a small group, invisible at first glance, who see through the noise and quietly walk out of the system. They don't do it through luck. They do it through awareness, patience, and discipline. They stop trying to look rich and start learning how to become rich. They treat every dollar as a seed, one that can either grow or die, depending on where it's planted. They understand that freedom isn't bought, it's built. The blueprint of the free. The people who escape share 5 common traits. 1, they live below their means. Not out of fear, but out of power. Every unnecessary expense is a chain. 2, they invest automatically. They don't time the market. They let time be the market. 3, they prioritize assets over image. They'd rather own equity than envy. 4, they master the rules of money. They learn how taxes, debt, and compounding actually work. 5, they value freedom over validation because real success doesn't need to be seen. It needs to be felt. These are simple principles, but almost no one follows them because they require delayed gratification, and delayed gratification doesn't sell products. The shift in mindset. Most Americans measure wealth by what they can buy. The wealthy measure that by what they can walk away from. Real wealth isn't the car, the house, or the watch. It's time, it's choice, it's control. When you stop chasing the appearance of success and start chasing control of your life, everything changes. Because money isn't the goal. Freedom is the quiet revolution. It's already happening. Quietly, beneath the noise, people are questioning the system. They're ditching 40-year mortgages and building cash-flowing assets. They're learning digital skills instead of climbing corporate ladders. They're investing in themselves, not just the market. The system won't collapse overnight, but its grip weakens every time someone becomes financially educated. Because once you understand how the game works, you stop being a pawn. And when enough pawns wake up, the game ends. The reset mindset. So how do you escape? Start simple. Track where your money actually goes. Build an emergency fund. Not for wealth, but for peace of mind. Invest consistently, no matter how small. Cut the noise, ignore the flex. Learn about taxes, inflation, compounding, and debt. Because wealth isn't built in leaps. It's built in layers, quiet, consistent layers of control. And control is freedom. The final wake-up call. So why are most Americans broke? Because they were never taught the rules. Because confusion is profitable. Because comfort feels safer than freedom. But now you know better. The same system that traps millions also rewards the few who understand it. Once you see the game, you can't unsee it. You'll start noticing the traps, the easy payments, the buy now, pay later lies. You'll start seeing debt for what it is, control, and then you'll step off the treadmill. You'll save, you'll invest, you'll build leverage, you'll reclaim your time, and one day you'll look around and realize something simple yet profound. You were never meant to be broke. You were just never meant to be free. But now you know the truth. And once you understand money, you can finally understand freedom. Because real wealth doesn't come from spending. It comes from seeing through the illusion and choosing to build something real.